Hello, dear friends of the podcast I have chosen. Here we are together again, and this time we are together heading directly towards the stars to see what will happen and what is happening already on our Mother Earth. Of course, we are going to do this together with the great astrologer, Professor Filipov, whom we have introduced already in a previous interview. But now we'll say a few words again about him, because if I have to share everything, it will take at least 10 minutes from this interview, and you can get more information about him only by writing Professor Filipov on the internet. Filipov is a graduate physicist, philosopher, esotericist, and astrology professor at the European Astrology University, founded by 6 centuries-old astrological traditions. Before I go on with more facts about him, I will just say that in a month, or most 2 months, he will have the possibility to make a presentation before us of this astrology university that has no analog worldwide, not only as a level of teaching astrology, but also because it includes all astrologies of the world except the astrology of the American Indians. So there is nothing like that. But let me leave this to him, because this time our meeting is very important. We are living now in a month during which there are many omens in the sky. But let me say something more about Professor Filipov. Professor Filipov is well known for the fact that he in public, in the national broadcasting media, and not only, has proven the scientific meaning of astrology by means of precise astroprognosis of global events, such as, for example, the earthquakes in Fukushima, in Pernik, in Italy, the huge earthquake in Turkey, the war in Ukraine, the terrorist attack at the Sarajevo airport in Bulgaria, the death of the Queen of the UK in 2022, Trump's success in the 2024 presidential election, the great scientific discoveries in the period of 2014 until 2024, and many other events publicly predicted by him, all of which could be traced and followed back in time. But the most important is that now he may speak. The great astrologer, Professor Filipov, who promised us maybe at least once a month to uplift the curtain of secrets into a multidimensional understanding of astrology, because it is about another level and other facts. Hello, Philip. Let us say that there are many omens in March, and also our conversation now will be in 2 parts. And if today it is new moon in Pisces, but it will be broadcasted later in a few days, then not later than the 9th of March, we are going to make another broadcasting of another very interesting topic related to the spiritual new year and the rising of Venus. So what are the topics included in the first conversation? Because the list is very, very long, and I think this whole month is just shaking because of facts about stars, stunning information, and all of this will resonate in life at all levels, social, political, maybe also financial, and not only for people who have chosen the spiritual path. There will be plenty of interesting things that you are going to share, because this month has unlimited possibilities in itself. Now it is new moon, although we are going to broadcast this conversation later. Today, what does this all predict in this lunar month? Because it's very specific. I am very glad that we are together again in the special podcast and channel I have chosen. I am very happy to be together again with Evelina, and I can share with the entire audience this astrological information happening in the sky. The end of February and the beginning of March are extremely intensive in terms of what happens in the sky, for the simple reason that there is a whole pleiad of fundamental and world-changing omens. As for example, we're going to talk first about an omen that has already manifested itself. It consists of 3 planets, a group omen made by Saturn, Mercury, and Venus. This omen very clearly reveals the tendencies for the upcoming 2 years regarding what is about to happen on the material level, also political level, and even military level, but mostly at the financial and economic level. We are going to discuss this first in this conversation, and after that I will interpret and explain this current new moon. We can say that this is the last new moon of the astrological cycle beginning from 2024, the first day of spring, and ending with the first day of spring 2025. And the next we are going to discuss, which is the third thing, is the fact that in March, on the 14th of March, there will be a moon eclipse. There is a serious level of activity during this event, so we must discuss it. Why do I say that March this year is extremely intensive? This is because things do not stop here. Immediately after this lunar eclipse, there happens the preparation for the first day of spring, and exactly during this first day of spring, this huge omen takes place, accomplished by Venus, and I'm going to show it and explain it, maybe in some conversation some other time. Then there is a solar eclipse on the 29th of March. So you see what we are talking about here. So we have 4 huge omens in March, a great concentration of planets around the point of the first moment of spring that surely provokes including seismic processes of earthquakes, because literally speaking, gravity is increased and focused towards the earth, but together with that we have a very special positioning of an entire series of planets around the moment of the first day of spring that already begins to happen. This is the series of planets Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, Venus, that will be positioned in such a way that they will change cardinally the entire humankind during this period of time between the first moment of spring 2025 until around the first day of spring 2026. So now let us not waste time. So I want to share the screen of what actually happened as a very important omen in the end of February, around the 23rd of February, and this omen instantly had its effect on the entire planet. There was a whole series of events and phenomena which are only the beginning of this cosmic process, which we are going to discuss actually. Let me just prepare the sharing of the screen. Excuse me, while you are preparing all this, can I ask you a question? What is different in what you share in your predictions? Because I browsed the informational space, what can be found in this direction, and it seems to me that what you are going to present here is multidimensional and all-embracing. Can you please share a few words before you go into details? Because really there is a big difference between what you give as information and all the rest. Yes, I'm going to explain why this is so, because actually the school of the master, Peter Denuff, in which astrology is studied as one of the most important sciences. So after the fundamental learning of the virtues of a disciple and the divine principles, we can say that astrology is the queen of all sciences. Astrology is at the highest level, and since the master not only restores the astrological tradition of Bulgaria, which is thousands of years old, this is one of the most ancient traditions worldwide, along with the Sumeric, Persian, Egyptian tradition. And you're working with the Sumerian tradition, is that so? Yes, exactly. So in this case here we have a restoration of the astrological tradition by the master, and after that he gives the impulse for the super development of the astrological tradition of Bulgaria. And this happened through one of his disciples, Fyodor Gruzinev, who is an immigrant from Russia, who attends the school of the master and who has mastered ancient languages and is a prominent astrologer. And actually, after the master passes out to the other world, he appears in the room of this disciple. The master passed over in 1944, and in a special situation, he literally appeared in the room of brother Fyodor Gruzinev and gave him a special task. He told him to start the translations of the ancient books. So this is what happened, and for this reason, brother Fyodor Gruzinev started a systematical translation of maybe around 50 books, antique books, systematizing and synthesizing them in a unique style. Those books have reached Luigi, who is a great astrologer in Bulgaria, having Italian roots but speaking Bulgarian and working in Bulgaria, and he himself instructed Professor Rumenkolev, who restored the observational practice of the Mesopotamian tradition, of the Sumeric tradition of the entire world, and I have made the three-dimensional model of the horoscope. He also did the same thing into separate software products. So we are working on the restoration of the entire astrological tradition of ancient times. And he specializes in the Mesopotamian, while I can say that I also am specializing in this tradition, but mainly in the Egyptian tradition. Our colleagues who are his students are specializing in the antique astrology, which can be named Thracian and Hellenistic astrology. And then in our university, we have around 10 teachers teaching all those topics and also the classic and modern astrology. For this reason, since we use a huge spectrum of resources of the ancients with very valuable books and methodologies that are not accessible to ordinary astrology. Therefore, we have the possibility to interpret the visible omens which take place in the so-called observational astrology, whereas the ordinary astrology does not observe the sky. It only uses some schemes and interprets the so-called 12 zodiacal signs in the tropical zodiac. True astrology, however, works with the entire sky. It is a spherical astrology and it observes the sky and the omens, and also it doesn't work only with 12 zodiacal signs. It works with the total of 48 constellations. All of them have a huge influence, and we cannot ignore this in any way. Then, in modern astrology, we already have 12 planets. Just as the master has predicted that someday it will happen, there are 2 new planets in the solar system that are not used by most of the astrologers. So, in the European Astrology University, we deal with the entire sky, building a spherical horoscope and using 12 planets and 48 constellations. So, this is the authentic tradition with the 48 constellations and the sphere horoscope of the ancients, whereas the modern methods, including the 12 planets, is unfolded and used as a resource by us. For this reason, you are not going to hear all of those things about which we are talking here and that I'm going to explain. You're not going to see them in the ordinary publications in Facebook, YouTube. Sorry for interrupting you, but exactly those things and this multidimensional nature, the fact that your team is based upon the past, upon history, upon the great ancient astrologers. Because the time we are living in now is very strange. Somebody just picks a part of something and says, this is it, but it is not exactly so. And that is why you and your colleagues have very deep analysis. And what you say comes true, because the sky is something alive. It's not just something static. It doesn't work by making some diagrams, because we have some programs in the computer and everyone makes horoscopes. And while I was waiting for the meeting with you, I decided to check what is there on the internet. I saw such things written. Part of them are so ridiculously written and so shallow that I thank God that I know you and that I can give access to your knowledge and the knowledge of your colleagues in the world that have stepped upon the basis of the ancient and who do not deny the contemporary, but have rather unfolded and developed it in a unique and multidimensional form. So in order to say why and to follow purely logically what you have prepared for us today, what is so important that will happen during this month March, and what happened already, and how the beginning will continue, changing our life at all levels. Evelina, actually, you said something very important, that the sky is alive, and that is the basic difference that we emphasize on in our courses in the European Astrology University. In modern universities, you go into Cambridge, Harvard, in the Sophia University, wherever you go, when you are taught whether it will be astronomy, astrophysics, or cosmology, or cultural astronomy, just as in some universities they try to replace the term astrology with that artificial term cultural astronomy. So wherever you go, all over the world, maybe only except the Indian university, in which astrology is still taught for several centuries already, everywhere else you'll see an entirely materialistic, mechanistic, and atheistic notion about the universe. They actually explain that the universe is just a mechanistic result of some big bang or something like clock mechanism that we can predict and study by means of the methods of science. But the thing is that the planets and stars, including our planet and the sun and all the other planets in the solar system, are not just a dead product, not some dust or gas that have gathered at a certain place with some rocks, forming some planets upon which we have walked and that have just appeared in a universe randomly by coincidence. This is absolute nonsense. Inculcated in the brains of little children during the whole life of humans up to their university courses. In this way, people live literally in a coffin of thoughts and ideas in a dead universe. That is not the true tradition of humankind at all. This only appeared during the recent 200 or 300 years. And when you see the wisdom taught in the schools, those traditions of humankind that are thousands of years old, then you will see what we are trying to restore as a method, as an idea about the universe in the European Astrology University. This is exactly the idea that the universe is living and conscious. This is said directly by Plato, one of the greatest philosophers of humankind. This is also said by the Indians, the great Indian initiates, thinking about the universe as a product of the breathing of Brahma, who inhales and exhales living great stars, planets, and universes. Literally speaking, this is also the tradition of Master Peter Dunov. He tells us that, for example, this Milky Way that you see on the screen is no coincidence. This is the body of the cosmic human, whose body cells are the planets and the stars. And our solar system is a tiny living structure consisting of cells within the huge body of the cosmic human. And exactly for the reason that the cosmic human is living and conscious at a huge cosmic level and order, therefore we are aspiring to acquire cosmic consciousness. This cosmic human has galactic cosmic consciousness and thinks through the ideas and concepts of stars, literally, and of the great angelic hierarchies who have completed their development long ago, eons ago. I mean their development at the human level. And today they are helping the humankind, or even the humankinds in the whole galaxy. Then the higher angelic hierarchies who have already become planets and stars, and even the higher angelic hierarchies, the so-called gods of the hierarchy of the thrones, the cherubs or cherubim, the seraphs or seraphim, they are already the creators of solar systems who organize the social life of the entire cosmos, literally speaking. And in this sense, from that viewpoint, our university offers exactly this method that we learn to understand the language of the cosmic human, directly speaking, the language of God. The language of God and its grammar and syntax, exploring this word of God at its cosmical order, is called astrology. Actually, by studying astrology, we explore how the divine manifests itself in our life, how it regulates its own cosmic organism. And for this reason, the Masters tells us about the so-called physiology of the cosmos. The Master says that the physiology of the cosmos is exactly astrology. The anatomy of the cosmos is astronomy and modern astrophysics, whereas the science exploring the psychology of the cosmos is the so-called cosmogony, or studying how the great angelic hierarchies, under the guidance of the Spirit of Christ, who is the self of this cosmic galactic human being, is guiding the creation of individual solar systems and the unfolding of those solar systems into an indescribable spiritual evolution. This is already the science psychology of the cosmos, which is named cosmogony, which is also studied in the European Astrology University. We are obliged to study all of them, the anatomy, the physiology, and the psychology of the cosmos, so that we can understand how the divine is working at this very moment, here and now, educating us, teaching us its divine teaching. I'm saying this because the Master, Ben Sadhana, also known as Peter Danuf, in the human sense of those words, when he spoke, when he delivered lectures, he is not simply an astrologer, he is a super astrologer. He's not just a prophet who predicted one or two wars, a sequence of earthquakes, great social events, and so on. He is a spiritual master at the level of planetary master teacher. He has come here in the name of the Spirit of Christ, who sent him as the Spirit of truth. He sent him on the earth as it was described in the Gospel. So what did he do very often? When he delivered a lecture, a talk, he delivered them according to the astrological code of that very instant when the divine was speaking in the cosmos. He took the horoscope of the given day, he analyzed that horoscope, analyzed also the processes happening around him, and on the basis of all this, he delivered the divine teaching as a lecture about what God spoke about those topics. So we must follow his testament, because he said directly, if you want to understand my lectures, I said, make the horoscopes of those lectures and talks. We have tried to do this, and there were at least 3 books about that, but certain people in Sofia blocked this project, wonderful people, but soon we are going to correct this mistake. Obviously, the time has not come for this, Philip. So let us come down to the earth. Exactly. I just explained what we were talking about. Now, in this case, what you see on the screen is actually the sunset a few days ago, around the 20th, 24th of February. 2 exceptionally important events happened. First, what is important, you see here Venus, which is huge and super bright. Its brightness now is almost maximum. It shines literally as a cosmic lighthouse, declaring that Venus is the ruler now with its bright light. Why? Because Venus is preparing to make its divine phase, called by the ancients by the name the goddess Nike, who today, from the esoteric and Christian point of view, symbolizes the resurrection of God's love over death, over limitations, and over the material world. And in this case, Venus, being super bright, and usually every astrological event is interpreted at least at 3 levels: lower interpretation, normal interpretation, and higher divine interpretation. In the ordinary human sense, Venus rules the human love, the arts, and all women, emanating beauty and harmony in life, and also rules over the goods, the boons in life, including the financial processes in the world. So Venus poses a key topic, which is the topic of the day. Exactly in this moment, what happened actually? The planet Saturn finished its heliacal cycle and set in the rays of the sun. You can see here the planet Saturn, and since it is exclusively close already to the sun, going deeper and deeper into the aura of the sun, this resulted in the fact that we already cannot with a naked eye see this planet in the sky because it is already in the rays of the sun. What does it mean? Oh, it sounds very beautiful in the aura of the sun. This is actually the temple of God. The sun and its aura is the temple of God, in which the planets enter and go out at a certain moment. Those cosmic planets, our great brothers, called, for example, the planet Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and so on. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Ceres, the new planet, and Aries, the other new planet. All of them get into the aura of the sun and go out of it. That means into and out of the temple of God. And each time a planet gets out of the temple of God, it means that it begins its own heliacal cycle. It starts impulsing certain processes on the Earth. However, when a planet finishes its cycle, it already becomes invisible because it has entered the temple of God. Its functions on the Earth enter a silent period, a natural low tide of cosmic energy and presence on the Earth, and we humans experience this low tide exceptionally intensively. The planet Saturn rules the karmic processes and all causal processes in general, the philosophical, the scientific processes, but also all processes related to the borders and, so to say, the identity of individual humans and of nations. The borders and the identity of humans and nations, a very important key moment. And what does that mean? There are several interpretations of this that were triggered by that omen. The point is that sometimes the divine sometimes makes more complicated double or multiple sentences. Here the sentence is that not only Venus shines brightly up there in the sky, as we see here, this is the beginning of the process in which the conditions are created in the beginning of this cosmic sentence pronounced by God. After that, God says, Saturn went down, set in the temple of God. So all the meanings of Saturn, all the influences of Saturn enter a natural minimum or low tide. However, parallel with this, the final of the sentence expressed by God towards all of us on earth is that in parallel with this, together with this setting of Saturn in the aura not only of the sun but also of Venus, Mercury rose and became visible as an evening star. And this phase was most harmoniously related by the ancients to the archetype of the being named Hermes. Each planet has its own archetypal persons. In this very moment, Venus, the way it shines, is called Aphrodite because it is also an evening star, whereas Mercury, by rising in this harmonious and very interesting way, exactly when Saturn went down, a special double and even triple omen is formed in this way, saying the following, that some kind of processes related to natural resources with the goods of the earth, with the borders of nations, all of that goes down, sets, and this process becomes unfavorable, and at the same time the planet of trading rises, of business, of contracts and agreements. And what happens in the world? It is happening so that a huge war conflict, making the whole world be in trouble, and about that conflict, several political leaders said that it could lead to the World War III. It turns out that the borders of Ukraine are interpreted and the natural resources of Ukraine in process of a contract, and they are trying to reach an agreement so that they can see whether this war has a chance to be stopped. This happened in the sky literally a few days ago, and now the news are exactly this. In the moment we are talking, the meeting between Zelensky and Donald Trump is about to happen in the USA exactly on this topic. However, things do not stop here, because all economies that are based on natural resources, like the so-called structure of a new order named BRICS, have an unfavorable position in the moment due to the fact that Saturn goes down at the horizon. All those huge economies, like the Chinese, the Russian one, and all the rest big economies of BRICS, have a not so harmonious position in this moment. And all those economies that are literally based on trade and on fast and changeable process, which are processes of Mercury, and these are the American and the Western countries, are now in a more active and stronger position because Mercury is visible, and because it rose, it went up exactly when Saturn went down. However, what is happening here actually? What does this predict? Yes, this is an omen for something exceptionally essential, because if people follow very carefully the economic processes during the end of January and the entire February, a huge disbalance happened, and also a symptom showing a great financial crisis. What are we talking about? Trade with gold has two kinds of it. The one type is trade with physical gold. There are generally three great stock markets in the world: in New York, in London, and in China, Shanghai, as far as I know. The first two trade in a spatial way. The third one trades with physical gold. So what happened? In February, the demand for gold became so big that, and it exceeded so many borders that, I mean a physical gold, that it went higher than all maximums, and even higher than the maximum during the time of the COVID crisis, meaning that in the world huge balances are happening now. And let me explain a little bit more. The first type of trade is with physical gold. The second type of trade is, for example, you want to say, I'm not going to give you gold now, but on a sheet of paper, I'm offering to you that you have it on a sheet of paper. Then you take this sheet of paper, you say that you have this gold, and you trade it again on a sheet of paper to a third person. He trades it, he sells it to a fourth person, then he sells it to a fifth person, to a sixth person, and so on. They can be hundreds of them. And in a certain moment, when a person says, I want my gold here in a physical form, that it comes here in my home or in my bank, all these contracts on paper are burnt down just in seconds. And for this reason, a huge crisis happens, and the demand of physical gold increases in huge sizes. Why is this so? Because the economies, like BRICS, which I commented here, would like to make their own currency in which they could have at least 30 or 40% of golden standard. If they are the first to do this, they will rule the economy of the entire world in the entire 21st century. If, however, someone else goes in front of them, for example, the USA, then the USA are going to rule the entire world in the entire 21st century. So what do I mean? One of the variants is that everything is based on resources, and the other variant is that everything is based on digital currency, based probably on gold, but only partially. For example, digital dollar, ruled by the Federal Reserve of the USA, based in the servers of the great banks, in this case the American bank, and this dollar may have a golden standard partially. In this case, it will lead to a total change of humankind, not only at the economical level, but also at the social level of society. Why? Because it can provoke the so-called global totalitarism, which has a financial basis. In China, this project is already running. It is completed, it is accomplished. In such economies as Canada and Australia, this same process is already tested. What is actually this process? For example, you are walking down down the street in China. These are huge boulevards for pedestrians. Imagine that. And there is overall movement in one direction. If you happen to have forgotten something at your home and you want to go back home and you start moving in the opposite direction, artificial intelligence immediately catches your face, declaring that you are violating the law of the movement along the boulevard, so you have to pay a fine of $50. So instantly, according to the digital standard, your currency, which is already digital, not normal currency, the server of the central bank of the People's Republic of China, and so on, like glory to communism, in quotation marks. So they take you directly your money because you have violated the law. Then you're walking along the street and you happen to just like that say something against the party or against its leader, you're instantly fined with 300 yuan. And then if you pass a border with several violations like this, your phone flashes in red and already you cannot walk along the street. If you get out in the street, then you are shut up in a concentration camp. And all of this is not any fantasy. Bulgarians who live there have told this to us. And this entire algorithm was tested during the COVID crisis, and this test has not finished yet. In China, it goes on. And have in mind that when they start the so-called digital currencies, first it will happen, let's say, in America. After that, maybe in the European Union. And when it happens in the European Union, its central bank will directly determine for you where you must buy your food from, where and how many liters you will have to buy, for example, petrol in your car. It will determine if you violate the law or speak against a commissioner in the European Commission and all other stuff like this. For example, the vice president of the USA came up in front of all the European leaders explaining that it is not acceptable to violate the democratic idea by censoring and blocking elections and by forbidding people to pray in their homes, like in Scotland, for example. So you can make your conclusions how far they have gone. Since it was not allowed for a person to pray in front of a house of birth for the fate of the babies who were aborted, if you happen to live near such a clinic, then you don't have the right to pray in your home. So what are we talking about? You must be kidding. No, this is not Filipov who says this. The vice president of the USA said this in front of all the European leaders in Munich. All these processes are running right now. Imagine that someone, for example, President Trump or Elon Musk, says, "Where is the gold of America?" and starts checking where it is. Right in this moment, exactly those processes are running. No one actually knows how much gold does America have now, because no one checked this in the last 50 years. But why do they want to check it? Because they are preparing to make a digital dollar with a golden standard, getting ahead of BRICS and ruling the entire world by this digital dollar. But Philip, how do you know that? Well, this can be accessed by the public. Everyone who has a little bit of knowledge and understands the English language and also understands astrology grasps all of this in an instant, hearing them directly, because people already do not hide anything. Normal people now do not listen to televisions or social media. A normal person gets into the YouTube and researches from authentic and quality sources. And all this is accessible directly in YouTube. You can see it, but I'm giving you some more information because I have drawn the resources. I have analyzed them geopolitically and economically, and on the basis of all this, on top of it, I am putting the astrological code. And of course, you are not going to find this anywhere else, except in this channel I have chosen in Bulgarian, English, and French. Thank you for that. But please, let us say something good Of course, here the good thing is that I do not understand astrology so much, but I see that in these omens there is a lot of light. Please, Philip. Of course, the master has warned us that until 1999 there will be favorable conditions for the spiritual development of humankind, but after 1999, gradually a new type will appear, a new type of totalitarianism, which will be even more serious than and greater than of the totalitarianism that we experienced during the 20th century, communism, fascism. And we can say that we are now entering another kind of corporative fascism, and this already is happening. We saw this at the time of the COVID crisis. Actually, whenever we have spiritual preparation, and we know from the great spiritual guides of humankind what is about to happen, and when we read the omens in the sky, we can foresee the situation. First of all, in a spiritual and moral way, and secondly, economically in our life. These two factors are of an extremely essential importance for us. So what do we have to know actually? First, whenever there are the symptoms of a financial crisis based on the presence or the lack of presence of gold and its physical presence in the banks, and even the small nations as Slovakia and Hungary, now they are claiming to have their gold into their banks, claiming it back because they know something that if our audience are intelligent enough to listen to this channel I have chosen, they will understand this. So what is it? That in the future, the ones that have gold, physical gold, will overcome the crisis that is about to happen. Those who do not have this gold will undergo extreme processes of inflation, and this is actually the first thing in life and economy that people have to know. Since BRICS and the USA and England as well, because it is part of this process, and also the European Union get orientated towards the golden standard, again, in some way or another, this will all lead to an extremely strange process. People will again start to seek where the gold is, literally. The second, which is the spiritual thing, the moral one. Dear friends, if you have intelligence exploring the modern sciences and also the ancient sciences, only then you can survive in a world which deliberately wants to make the so-called principle of the artificial selection. We know the natural selection of Darwin. We have studied that in school. However, there are such people that would like to make the so-called artificial selection. It is about creating artificially of all kinds of problems in society and concerning humans, including the poisoning of key resources such as food, air, water, and so on, with the aim that the human consciousness does not develop to a normal extent. So the ones who do not have intelligence and spiritual preparation cannot reproduce themselves, cannot develop themselves, and cannot have a future. And for this reason, the intelligent and spiritually developed persons and nations survived the COVID crisis very well, very adequately. So they didn't have certain problems with their health upon their arms. Such a nation was the Bulgarian nation and also the Romanian one, who out of all the other nations in the European Union managed to grasp the conspiracy and did not obey the nonsense of those neoliberals. And in this case, a similar process, but still another wave of it, will come into the direction of globalizing the humankind, of making a planetary government that would like to rule first the separate big blocks, the Americas, the European Union, Russia and China, and so on the basis of digital currency. And those digital currencies from the central banks, by means of checkboxes, they are going to determine for you what should you feed on, where should you go shopping, where should you travel? Should you travel from the Sofia airport to Strasbourg or not? Because if you have violated the law and if you have too much carbon emissions, then you will not be allowed to travel. And by a simple checkbox, it will be taken out of your options and your freedoms. So in this case, the intelligent and spiritually developed nations and persons who are all over the world, glory to God, and there will be more and more, glory to God, they have to foresee all of that, and they shouldn't obey in any way, and they shouldn't allow in any way this horrible transformation of a new kind of totalitarianism that begins to place its roots more and more. And in this case, all the people who are vigilant, who have the capacity of understanding the tendency and who see the cosmic processes, how they are running and what is happening, those people can foresee all of that and they can intervene in the very crucial moments. This is exactly the positive news, that we have all this information forehand, all that strategy years before that. Just as during the COVID crisis, we had the information 2 years before that. Now also we have the information 2 or even 5 years before that on that topic. And we can say, I have chosen freedom and development and spiritual self-development, and I will not in any way obey the totalitarian schemes, both on local level and the global level. And this can be overcome. And as we saw, the American nation made a contra-revolution against all the insanity that happened there in the recent, maybe at least 14 years, in the 2 mandates of the one president, in a 3rd mandate of the President Biden. And all this was a horrible neoliberal revolution. However, the people made a contra-revolution, and now we have a chance through the Americas that at least some of the processes could be slowed down. However, we see that the same people who are ruling now, Trump's government, if they do not prove their value in front of the entire humankind, they will actually start acting towards the direction of the new totalitarianism at a global level. No matter that they do not want to even hear about those things. And we'll see this in the next few months, up to half a year, how it is going to happen and what tendency it will be chosen by the American nation. So this is the key information that we have to understand. We, Bulgarians, as well as all people that are awake, conscious, and listening to this video in several different languages, have to be prepared to stop at any cost these new attempts for a global totalitarianism that will be of unheard range. This cannot be compared even to communism or fascism or the processes described by Orwell 1984 in his book. So in this sense, when we foresee all of that, we are able to stop it. That is the good news in this case. And the essential that can be seen right now, and we'll end with this analysis of this omen, is that we see that how certain processes are prepared financially. Venus, in the terms of the goods of humankind, Venus, in a situation that all those economies based on resources, the BRICS Union, enter a crisis because they were threatened directly by Trump that their projects will not be accomplished. So the economists, based on trade and the fast changeable processes, and even to processes related to cryptocurrencies, which are the energies of Mercury, they rise, they go up in a stronger position, and most probably this year or the next year, we might hear how the American country changes the standard, the financial standard, in a radical way. Just listen to the nonsense. Up to this moment, during the recent 50 years, the American country defines a troy ounce of gold equal to $42.22. In this moment, the price of gold is almost $3,000. So the state defines it equal to $42, whereas the market defines it as $3,000. If the price is leveled away, which is very probable to happen, and if they at a certain moment say that a troy ounce is equal to price on the market, do you understand what type of hyperinflation will happen all over the world? And the second thing to happen is that everyone will wish to have gold. And when not everyone has it, because gold is limited as quantity, people themselves will wish that digital standard should be introduced, or digital dollar, crypto dollar, based on gold. People from BRICS would also like to introduce their own currency based on gold. People will themselves want this after this hyperinflation hits, which is being prepared for us. Sorry for interrupting you. Before we proceed to the answer of what will happen on 17th of March, because this is the other omen, the gold of Europe was in Germany at the time of Hitler, because Hitler gathered it in one place, but after that this gold went to America. Yes, exactly. And now the nations want it back. And since this gold is not there in Fort Knox and the other places, then a huge quantity of tons of gold are now loaded into airplanes now, flying towards the USA. This is happening now. If you see the trade balances of gold, you have never seen such trade processes like that. The quantity of physical gold being traded is a huge one. Why is this happening? It is because Trump went together with Musk before the public and said, we can make an accountant balance of what our state owns as gold reserve, but this time with a camera following everything so that it is accessible to everyone to see. And if it turns out that gold is not there, or if it turns out that the gold there is more, a huge crisis will take place, a crisis of trust in the financial spheres. All of them, especially the banks, are based on trust. And when there is no trust, you understand what happens. But now they are loading the airplanes with gold. Why? So that they show that the gold is there. And the gold being there, they are already prepared to say, well, now we are going to make a new kind of currency, digital one, which will be based on gold. So there begins the step in the process that everyone says, well, we are going to do the same. The European Union will do the same, and it is already planned. So here you are, the digital concentration camp of a global size. So we must oppose exactly that as free thinking and spiritually developed people. In order not to make any commentary that I will regret of, let us proceed to the date of the 17th of March. Well, in this case, you're hurrying a little bit because there is another key date, which is today, the 28th of February. What happened, just a moment, let me share the screen now, is that actually we are in a process of new moon, which is very essential because it shows, as every new moon shows with its dynamics, it shows what is about to happen in the course of a lunar month. This lunar month begins on the 28th of February and ends on the 29th of March, when there will be also solar eclipse. Each lunar cycle in which there are eclipses of the moon or of the sun is a problematic one and also complicated. In this lunar cycle, we have a moon eclipse, and the next lunar cycle will begin with a solar eclipse. And in this sense, each time we observe the chart of the new moon, we can understand some tendencies, upcoming tendencies in this very specific lunar cycle and month beginning from the 28th of February and ends towards the end of March. The first very important thing that we can see is that the fact that during the new moon, these two planets, Venus and Mars, that I'm showing to you now, are in an extremely strange situation. This is a stationary phase. All planets have three kinds of movements: a normal movement, a retrograde motion. Many people have heard about the retrograde Mercury. Please, this is the guiding light of people. So all planets except for the moon and the sun. In astrology, both the sun and the moon are called planets as well. So all other planets perform such retrograde motions. The thing is that people do not know that besides the retrograde and the normal motion, there is still another phase that is very much more important, and this is the stationary phase. If you do not do anything during the Mercury retrograde, then you should do absolutely nothing during the Mercury stationary. If someone wishes to do business and does this business during Mercury retrograde, this person will have problems. If he or she does it on during Mercury stationary, this business will be liquidated since its very beginning, instantly. There will not be problems, it will be just liquidated. I'm giving another example with my prognosis from for the previous new moon. I drew the attention that we have not an ordinary phase or retrograde phase of Uranus, but a stationary phase of Uranus, and I warned that there will be serious airplane accidents during the lunar month that is already over. More than 5 big accidents happened, especially in the USA. There were around 5 great accidents. So in this case, imagine that we begin a new lunar cycle, and this new moon cycle has not only one stationary planet, but 2 stationary planets. And these are the planets that rule the emotions, feelings, the love life of people. These are Mars and Venus. Mars rules the male functions and also the physical activity, the fighting and war activity, all activities related to police, state security, all processes ensuring the security of people, both locally and at the military level. So all of them are in an exceptionally strange and not well-positioned state. So there is some problem there with the military activity, with the police, with the security of people, with all physical activities in which the people's willpower has to be manifested. So with these problems, in the course of a lunar month, we have a big red dot that is flashing like a lighthouse. So be careful what you are doing in the field of military activity, at the level of police, or ensuring people's security, for example, defense from terroristic attacks and so on. So there is a situation during this lunar month in which the processes related to the male activities and the biologic processes of men are not in a very good position. And together with that, all active physical processes in which willpower is demanded. Willpower is the word for Mars. In all that, we have not well-positioned situation as well. Moreover, the planet of all women, ruling, for example, the estrogen in the female's body, ruling the beauty, the harmony, and the arts, but also the human forms of love, and that is Venus. This planet also is in a stationary phase, which means that this month is extremely strange in emotional and love terms at the level of goods and resources that are ruled by Venus. So there also will be a certain blockage, a strange situation, something will stop literally. So this could be related also to financial processes. The stopping of financial processes is the serious first step of any crisis. So in this sense, we see a month which in a purely human plane shows that people running love processes in their lives, some emotional processes and so on, have to be much more attentive and careful than usual. The second thing that is obvious is that the physical activity and activity at the level of arts, of beauty, of harmony and management of goods will also be in not good position. In parallel with all of that, however, the very horoscope, the very star chart, already in two-dimensional form during the new moon itself, shows something extremely interesting. That during this lunar month, in which we will see the first day of spring also, we have also a conjunction that is very complicated. Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, North lunar node. Even Venus will take part in this somehow during the first day of spring. But let us first see this new moon that happened on the 28th of February. It shows that the invisible planets, Saturn and Neptune, which have become invisible in some way or another, mostly Saturn, because Neptune is invisible to the naked eye in general, will create, and they are beginning to create, some events of limitation, Saturn, of contraction, Saturn, of collapse, Saturn, Saturn of what? Of all those things that are ruled by Neptune and Mercury. What is ruled by Neptune and Mercury? Since ancient times, Mercury is responsible for the health processes, medical processes. However, modern medicine, which has become industry and somewhat anti-human industry, very often we saw that during the COVID crisis, and not only. Neptune is responsible for these institutions, medical ones that are related to with the higher level of management and structuring of these pharma activities and all that is ruling the medical and the health processes of entire nations. And in this case, we see a collapse, contraction, Saturn, of what? Of health institutions. Kennedy Jr. just became a health minister of the USA. This person, who is known worldwide, has proven that there are many problems in the pharma industry in which certain liquids are used in small containers and applied onto the arms of people. And Trump has said it not in just one speech, but many. He said that the cases of unclear and unknown illnesses have increased hundreds of times. And moreover, regarding the children of America, and not only of America, but globally, it means that we will see a collapse of the old approach and old concepts in the pharma industries and in medicine that wanted to use all these resources in an incorrect way. There will be a certain accountant process there, just as Elon Musk is doing right now an accountant process of the entire USA. So Kennedy is going to make a full scientific and medical accountant analysis of all the health processes running not only in the USA, but also all over the world. And for this reason, this new moon and this first moment of spring that are yet to come are very favorable. But another interpretation could provoke some alarming feelings that the opposite forces could use these conditions of the combination of Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, and later Venus during the first day of spring into a very strange direction, trying to create a new health crisis. However, nature itself has given a clear sign that nothing like that is going to happen. I'm going to speak about this next time when discussing the divine Venus. So this will be the bright episode, our meeting next week. Well, this episode is also bright because we reveal what the strategy is. So when you show the strategy, you also show the methods, how to cope with all that. So when people have the vigilance and the awareness, they will manage to cope with that. And for this reason, this episode is bright as well. So you are giving the path towards the light in the tunnel. Exactly. We are the signs in the path in the tunnel. But Philip, so far it has been dark. However, the tunnel is open and you can see the light. That's what is important. Okay, please now share about the 17th of March. It is very important to me. But after that, we have to discuss very important things related to the so-called lunar eclipse, the moon eclipse on the 14th of March. And that divine manifestation that we are talking about is beginning to be prepared on the 17th of March, but it is happening in the course of a whole week, from March 17th until around 23rd, 24th of March. But let me say just one more sentence on this topic. In this case, we see square between Jupiter and the new moon, which shows that during this month, globally and locally, for Bulgaria, there will be certain political and social transformations and changes, which is already in the news. This process is happening already. It will continue to unfold at a great scale. And from this triple conjunction, I would say only that we have several interpretations. One of them showing that the trade processes worldwide enter very serious limitations. And this is imposed through these tariff limitations made by Trump, including towards the European Union at the rate of 25%. I'm finishing with the following. Each each new moon shows some more specific planetary lines crossing the face of the Earth. So what you can see now on the screen is how this new moon creates two types of processes regarding Europe. These are the risk lines, and they are of two types. That was the first diagram, and the other one is the second one. As you can see here, especially for Bulgaria, in the Western Balkans, in this area, and especially this region here around Tirana, Skopje, and northern Greece, there is an orange code for earthquakes of a more serious range, but gladly it is an orange code. Then let us see the processes in America. Again, we have two types of lines. These are all lines showing from two different perspectives, two different coordinate systems, what is happening during the new moon. And along these lines, we can see a higher risk of nature cataclysm or incidents in the transport area or the economic sphere. So here are the lines for Asia, again, two different points of view. And finally, we can proceed to the next interpretation of the very lunar eclipse that is about to happen on the 14th of March. If we pay attention to this lunar eclipse running in a more special way, let me just visualize it. So here is the full moon that is actually the lunar eclipse. It happens as a specific blood red eclipse that fortunately is not above Europe, but still in the very beginning, part of Europe, especially Western Europe, will be influenced by the semi-shadow of this lunar eclipse. Then this lunar eclipse shows the participation of the planet Saturn in conjunction with the Sun that significantly increases the earthquake risk on the whole planet. And this lunar eclipse clearly shows that here the risk of airplane accidents is decreased, but still it remains comparatively high. So I would say there is a yellow code for that risk of airplane accidents, but it is decreasing. Then we see during the whole month March possibility for serious not only earthquakes events, but also events related to the water element or all types of problems in seas and oceans with ships, for example, with immigrants and so on. And here the most serious risk, however, is the seismic risk. And when we view the lines along Europe, immediately we have the impression that one of the risk lines crosses eastern Bulgaria. Another big crossing of two lines is in central Turkey, which is something serious. And pay attention how many lines are positioned in Western Europe, showing that here, due to the lunar eclipse, from the 14th until the 29th of March, we will have serious events in Western Europe. And along these lines, most probably there will be some kind of political transforming events of a serious type. Most probably Europe will have to react urgently to the new processes happening in the USA and all over the world. And together with that, there are certain processes here related to the water element, most probably, or also seismic processes. Let us look for a moment also at the lines in Asia showing risk events. And finally, we can end with the two Americas, Central America. So this is practically the analysis we have made of these three very important events, the triple omen in the end of February, the new moon in the end of February, and the lunar eclipse happening on the 14th of March. If I have to summarize, these three processes show that we are living here in an exceptional dynamics, and this horoscope of the new moon as well as of the full moon. The full moon will be a lunar eclipse, shows a necessity for people to be much more vigilant and conscious, and I recommend to people to enter the website astroman.com, and let us mention that the access to it is free of charge. Yes, and everyone can make two-dimensional horoscope, and also from this icon also a three-dimensional horoscope, all free. And when when you enter your account through this menu, you can enter the tab prognosis, and these prognosis are according to your personal horoscope. Literally, this is personalized astrology. It means astrological analysis personally for you. You go to the menu that is opened. These are the short-term prognosis, and here on the basis of those graphics about health, love, profession, spiritual development, creation, sexual energy, financial processes, including the business processes and partnership processes, as well as the so-called risk. You can analyze all those events in advance, and when there are minimums or maximums in the graphics, you can use those graphics, those maximums, essentially. So how do you use the minimums? This is the most important that I have to explain. If you see in the graphics of health a minimum, and at the same time the graphics of risk, here this is the third graphics from down upwards. If it shows at the same period a minimum, so absolutely all risk for your health or life should be absolutely excluded. This is the method by which you can save your life, and do not underestimate it. In many cases, people have seen that when both graphics have a minimum strongly, it means that there is a danger for the health and life, so people have to keep them. If you have, for example, in the partnership a strong minimum in this graphic, and at the same time the graphic of risk is also at a strong minimum, it means that on the plane of partnership you have to be careful if there is such a minimum in the financial graphics, and it is the same in the risk graphics. At the same time, if there is a strong minimum there, you have to be aware of losses and incorrect, unwise decisions in the financial sphere, and so on. In this way, actually, through the software astroman.com, you are able to foresee those processes, so that I will not have to explain them to you only globally, but you can enter your personal horoscopes, and for a month ahead or 2 months, you can build for yourselves all those graphics and to see the analysis, what is showing to you. And when you have minimums, you should beware and keep yourself to analyze through the risk graphics where exactly the danger is. And when there is a maximum in those graphics, you have to use all those resources at a maximum. For example, if you have a maximum in the sphere of partnership or love, you have to literally make efforts in this direction and to unfold the potential as much as you can in a good way. And if it happens in the sphere of finances, you have to be business active at a maximum. And in this sense, this is personalized astrology, personally for your total horoscope, not only for your solar sign. So here is the other difference, Evelina. I would like to thank you so much, Philip, because the time we are living in, there is a big trade in the temple, figuratively speaking. And when there are people like you, and they are not so little, they have to be in the focus, not anyone who has had 5 or 6 courses and already is playing a spiritual guru or seeking followers through marketing tricks in the social nets, because this is like epidemic process in Bulgaria just now. So this is very sad for me, and this is a reason for this channel to be, for I will continue to invite people like you, because they not only shine, but for example, a person like you and the team you are working together with in this European Astrology University, you do the things in the right way. So you have created a software on the basis of the knowledge given to us as a heritage since the times of the Sumerians, and moreover in this website, because you said trade in the temple, namely the master has given the method how to overcome this trade in the temple and to be stopped forever. In principle, the spiritual knowledge, the astrological knowledge, is free of charge. You have to know this, my friends. It cannot be valued by a human through some financial resources. The only thing that is estimated as a financial resource and in very little size is the personal time dedicated for it, the technical support of all that. And I'm giving you a particular example. If you want to see what serious processes are running currently, you just go in the menu in prognosis, future configurations, and you see in the moment for the month ahead the most important key events in the whole cosmos that I systematically and regularly interpret. And when you click, for example, on a harmonious and favorable phase of Mars, Sun, and Moon, by clicking on it, you can personally estimate if this figure is favorable for you as an influence or not good. When you make this kind of analysis here, pay attention to what the sum of money that has to be paid is here. This is around 30 or 40 stotinki, equal to cents, for professional analysis of an astrological configuration. What I have shown you just a moment ago as graphics, and I explained you how to interpret them, is the cheapest professional astrological service that you can find on the market. Well, now someone may think that I'm making an advertisement of your activities, but we have not spoken in advance that we are going to talk about this. But since I am following certain tendency and I'm stunned that obviously there are people who do not think and are wondering how to give their money for some unreal things. But the fact that other people are offering this completely consciously bearing the responsibility, this is another topic. So this financial cost is only for the technical support and the personal time that is dedicated for this during the making of all those algorithms. So make your conclusions. All the rest as spiritual information, as interpretation, as astrological knowledge is completely free. Because if you had to pay for this, it costs millions in some sublime spiritual notions and terms, but not in the form of human financial resources. So this is given as a method by the master, and we apply it in our tradition directly. Dear audience of this podcast, some people are selling the divine, so be attentive, because the spirit is not for sale. And in our space I have chosen, we actually are going to make efforts with our team to meet you with all those bright people in Bulgaria and show them to you, and all over the world also. And those people are guardians of light, and they are not doing this in the name of profit, but in the name of the omens or the path that is given to them from above, so they can accomplish and do the will of God in the name of people, in the name of good, just as Philip does this, and many other friends, as you can see in our podcast, all the conversations with them. So the interesting meetings are ahead of us. These are not the most advertised people. They do not use the marketing tricks. They do not seek any followers, because God is one. All paths towards Him are right, but along the path towards God, even if we talk about stars, we have to be infinitely aware and awake. And I am calling all of you who have subscribed for our channel, please check whatever we say, see the facts. We have to think, because we are beings that actually have heads above our shoulders, and it is good that we think more and arrange the puzzle of all things on the basis of facts, of history, on the Bible, on all the sacred things which are the heritage of the whole world, from all those great spiritual initiates who have come on earth in the name of knowledge, so that we can be divine. Everything is inside us, and I'm sure that when we know, we are free. And when we are free, we can choose. And when we choose, we can change everything, even what is predestined as dark shades, what Philip today predicted as possibilities. But here we have understood what the plan is. So when you know the plan, there is a chance that you bypass the plan or change it through all the aware and thinking people that really want to be free and to live in a world in which love, trust, and hope are permeated by light in the name of life that is given to us, not not by those who make plans, but from elsewhere, from where everyone has their own answer. And I am looking forward to our next meeting next week with Professor Filipov, when we are going to talk about Venus. Please tell me only 2 sentences, because I know a little bit more than the others, because we have made some conversation in this direction, because what you are going to share is so good and so bright and full of magic. When the planet of love in our solar system shows that love is eternal and unchangeable and God's love is above everything, then the humankind attains not only hope, it acquires a divine impulse towards true spiritual development. Thank you, Philip, to you and to all that you are working with, because I know that your deed is huge and is the fruit of a lot of work of many other people as well, and you are all a team, and I hope that in recent time there will be a chance for us to present all these things in quite different details, and many people will be surprised and attracted to the possibility of being a part of this huge deed that we are now only hinting about. So until next time, be healthy and blessed with what you do. Please prepare for us the best things we can hear, because believe me, we urgently need this, all of us. So exactly, we are going to talk about this next time. Thank you. So be healthy. I thank you too. Until next meeting, be healthy and abide in God. Amen. Amen.